Welcome to Bridging Chicago, a podcast that aims to connect our listeners to Chicago's business, community, cultural, and charity leaders.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Bridging Chicago podcast. My name is Nathan, and I'll be your host today. On this episode, I'm joined by Imelda Rodriguez, the founder and CEO of Coaching Vida, LLC, and author of Latinas in Finances. Imelda, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited to get to talk to you, to hear your story. I know that people are going to love what you have to say. So we're just really excited that you're here with us.
No, thank you, Nathan. Thank you so much for opening this space for me to share with your audience. I'm very excited. And yes.
Yeah.
It's like I feel at home. So
Good.
Thank you for that.
Good. We're just happy to have a platform that we can share. And certainly we have heard so many stories of leaders who are doing amazing things in our city. And so anytime we get to do that, it's just a great day. So we're really happy today. We are Bridging Chicago, so we always like to start with people's Chicago stories. So why don't you tell us your Chicago story, how you came to be here, if you grew up here, just what Chicago means to you.
Well, let me tell you, I have one. And I was just like not ready for this question right away, but walking in here, so this is like we're in the downtown area, and walking in here, it just kind of get to my mind. Let me tell you, my Chicago story, and probably everybody in here knows the Twin Towers. The Twin Towers.
Mm-hmm.
They're in here. I don't remember right now the street, but I was walking by, I passed by, and I remember there is actually back then, I'm going to be maybe like 20 years ago.
Oh, okay.
There is like a McDonald at the first floor.
Okay.
And I used to work there.
Wow.
I used to work there 20 years ago. I was just walking in here and like on Adams Street, and oh my God, that came to my mind right away. And that's my Chicago story. Imelda Rodriguez, founder and CEO today. 20 years ago, I remember working there as I was a cashier, manager, like right after. And that was me. That's my Chicago story.
Yeah. It's so interesting. I spent some time working at McDonald's also. And for me, it's one of those things where it's one of those lessons, and everything is what you make it, right? It's like you can work there, and it really is actually a pretty cool place to work, because I feel like there's not a lot of pressure, but I had a lot of fun with it. But also I learned a lot about people, about the service industry, about customer service, just about how you treat people. And I think those are lessons that I use even today. I'm still in a customer-based industry where, we are focused on serving our customers well, and we're usually forward-facing with them. Are there lessons from those days that you find yourself still using today or teaching today?
Yes, and you just mentioned one, but it was like, it clicks to me right away. The customer service, like being able to talk with the customers. I remember, because the towers, like there is like residential towers. There is like a lot of people, like they just go downstairs, for food. So I recall, like it was like usually the customers, they were like kind of the same at the same time. Yeah. So it was like the rush at the same time was like so on time for those things. Yeah. So I remember like having the opportunity to talk with many people, like with the residents there, with people even coming from outside. I remember like it's just coming to my mind right now, like the Bank of America, it is still the Bank of America marathon goes through there. And we were like working there and all excited about like just going outside and snipping a little bit when the runners were there. Yeah. So right now I'm thinking, I don't know if it's the name of the towers are the Twin Towers. I don't know, but they're like very similar. They're around here.
Yeah, I think the presidential towers, because I know the McDonald's you're talking about there. Yeah. I was like, it clicked. I was like, I know that it's not there anymore, unfortunately, but I know which one you're talking about.
20 years ago.
Yeah. 20 years ago. Yeah. And I think that there's so much value in people's story. And this is the kind of stuff where it's like, if you hadn't worked there and hadn't received those lessons in business and leadership in whatever way that you did, your story would be a little different. Now, would it be better or worse? We don't know, but it would certainly be different.
100%. I truly believe that everything like I feel like in your life everything is like a puzzle, right?
Yeah.
So without that piece, sometimes it could be that piece that something very bad happened, or you don't want that piece on your story. I feel like it will damage everything, right? Because you won't see the full picture.
Yeah.
So it has to be there. Every single piece in the puzzle has a purpose. And even those things that you're like, maybe I don't want to say that I work in McDonald. No, everything was part of, who I am today.
Yeah.
And everything is there for a reason. So I feel like we need to embrace those moments and just learn from whatever situation it is. If it's something hard, something easy, something that you're not even afraid of, like just go through that situation, and moving forward later on time, you will be able to meet, like walking by 20 years after. And I just look at the presidential towers and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to an interview. Like 20 years ago, probably that was not in my mind.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I mean, I'm sure walking by there for you was flashbacks all over the place. And, that's so cool. So you obviously didn't go from McDonald's to being a founder and CEO, I would assume anyway. Tell us how that happened. What happened in your life? Like, what were the other pieces of the puzzle that came together that allowed you to step into this leadership into coaching?
So let me tell you, this is I'm pretty sure this thing runs in my DNA. My background is in business administration.
Okay.
But the educational component is there. This is it's not just my mom, but my grandma and my great grandma, right? They were founders of educational institutions. So it has been I feel like everybody appointed me oh, you're going to be the next, right? You're going to be the next.
Wow.
I feel like I kind of knew it. But in my story, I was opposed to, I don't want to be that, I'm no, the cycle is going to break with me. But again, going back to life and puzzle, sometimes life will make sure that whatever is your path, you're gonna find that again, right? So to me, it reached out to me you're gonna be part of education. I'm no, I'm just running in the opposite direction. So I end up doing this. And what I'm doing with the company, with coaching, Vida, we do 2 types of coaching: life coaching and financial coaching. My mom is the one doing the life coaching. I am doing the financial coaching because of my business administration background. So I always kind of knew that I was going to end up doing something in the business.
Yeah.
But I end up doing something that is business and education at the same time.
And doing your own thing.
Pretty much.
And which is pretty amazing. Now, did you invite your mom to come and be a part of this? And how did that conversation go? Because that's a really interesting piece to me, where it's you have spent your whole life learning from your mom, being disciplined by your mom, kind of under her wing, and all of a sudden her daughter is coming to her and saying, hey, I'm starting this thing. How would you feel about being a part of it?
Yeah. So what happened is pretty much my mom is doing her own thing, right? I'm running in the opposite direction. I don't want to kind of work with her, right? You're 20 years ago, I'm talking you don't want to be with your parents. You're actually running, right? Against that.
Yeah.
But I remember it was this point in my life where I noticed that my mom changed a little bit. And that happened because she was doing the same thing, because the education runs in her DNA.
Wow.
She was doing something else. It was about mortgages and something. So she was totally kind of running against her purpose as well.
Wow.
And I saw something very different knowing her, right? It was I know how she looks when she's doing her purpose. This face is totally different now. The way that she walks, it was just very heavy on her shoulders. So it was this day where I get in contact with her and I'm hey, Mom, I need to take a coffee with you. Let's go outside and have this conversation. That conversation, it was very deep. I was so tell me, how are you? What are you doing? like, what are you doing? How is everything going? Like, for sure, like, tell me, be honest. And she started crying. Crying. And it was like, where this part, like, she's like, like, I'm not doing my purpose. Like, this is not who I am, yada, yada. And I'm like that daughter that I could be at this point probably doing something very different. But it was the point in life where the two, like my mom's life and my life, gets together and collide in like, we should be doing this together. At the beginning, I'm not gonna lie, at the beginning it was about her. It's not about me. It's not about nothing else. Like, how I can help you kind of put everything together and aligns for you to do what you need to do for the purpose. Back then, I'm talking like, I don't know, like 15 years ago, I was like, I'm going to open a company for you. Back then, the name of the company, it was Innovación Vida, life innovation in Spanish. We created this company. Again, everything was like for her to become like that teacher, right? To be in front of audiences. She speaks mostly Spanish. So it was like for the Hispanic community, what are we doing? All of that. We started doing seminars, conferences, workshops in Spanish for the community. I knew she got like when she's talking in front of people, she is very special. Like, I can tell you, like, she start talking and people just start getting together, or like they gather around her. And I'm like, you have something that you need to talk with people. So at the beginning with Innovación Vida, it was about her. Then things happened. It was like in business, we got like an office, we were doing all of this stuff. That was part of the puzzle today, right? Like, Innovación Vida is part of who I am today. But later on, I started working. I was like, okay, now you're ready. You fly. Like, I did my part with you. That's it. I'm done with you. You fly solo. But the magic was not there. Actually, we find out that the magic of working together, it gives the results. Yeah. So later on, I started working, things happen. I was working on my own. But 3 years ago, after like, different situation, and actually I'm going to talk like this is like, COVID-19 3 years ago, pretty much. Yeah. Actually, December 2019, we opened Coaching Vida. And I was like, we're going back together. I changed the name of the business, and that's what we are doing right now. So the business itself, it has 3 years, but we have been doing like the seminars, conferences, workshops. Now we do it in Spanish and in English. And mostly we talk about anything that is connected with life and anything that is connected with the financial component. So
yeah. And I've heard from so many people, there are times when you can just tell when people are not doing what they're meant to be doing, and times when they are. And it's funny because I think sometimes when you're doing what you're doing, it just feels like, oh, I'm just doing what I enjoy, and you don't notice it until you're not. And then you're like, this is not. And you saw that in your mom. So for you and for other people who may be sitting there going like, what she just said about her mom, I identify with that. I identify with the fact that like, I don't feel like I'm doing what I'm meant to be doing, but I can't just go and do something else. What do you encourage people to do who are in that spot where they really just don't know what else is out there, and they feel like wherever they're at might be the best that it can be, or the only thing that it can be?
Yeah, I feel like finding your purpose is very, very important. And you can go to different classes, you can listen to different things, you can do whatever you want. It is inside. Yeah. It is in here. And you will, sometimes I feel like, to me at that point, it was screaming to me. So it was not about like money. It was not about benefits. Like, there's many differences between like working for somebody else and doing business. Like, when you start doing business and nothing else, you kind of lost a lot of different things, right? You don't have the benefits, you don't have like the punch in, punch out, like all of those things that, in working for somebody else will give you. So I feel like it's just inside of you, and he will tells you, and just listen to that voice that is telling you, do what you have to do. There is a call calling you, and that's what you need to do. what it can happen, like you can run again that, right? Like just do something else that is not even your purpose. But I feel like you are going to be that person that is walking sadly. And I know, like, I can describe my mom back then, right? Like, she was like, it was just in her face, like, I know it. And yeah, it's like, you decide, like, how you want to be. You want to be that person and just move forward, or you're going to be the one doing your purpose, helping somebody else. And I know that when you do your purpose and you listen to that voice inside of you, wow, things are going to happen for you, for the people around you. And you're going to be, I don't want to be telling that you're going to be happy, because it's not about the happiness in here. There is going to be a lot of challenges. I got challenges every day, all day. But it's just like, you just are going to see those things like, okay, speed bump in here. That's it. And then you go to the next one, and then you go to the next one, and then you just find a way, like, how you're going to end up doing what you want to do.
Yeah, I appreciate you kind of looking at the realistic situation, because I think a lot of people want to feel like it's going to be, you're going to do your purpose and you're just always going to be happy, but it really isn't that way.
No, not at all. Like, I can tell you, I can testify about that. Like, you can be doing your purpose, but no, it's very different. Like, every day is a challenge. And like, it's not about, like, I was just thinking about the movie right now, right? The Pursuit of Happiness, where you're like, I'm pretty sure, like, even at the end of the movie, right? If you watch the movie, like, there is too many things after that. Like, it's not like the end of the movie and then he was happy forever. Like, no, there is like a chapter 2 movie there where you're going to see, like, all of the things that he find out in the movie. So, yeah,
it's kind of, I was thinking about, it's kind of like relationships, where, like, when you pursue someone because you, whatever reason, you, like, individual people would, when you pursue someone, you don't stop when you form a relationship. That's kind of like when the real work begins, and it continues to be work. But I think it's not happiness that is the be all end all, but it's just being content with the way life is going and about what you're putting out into the world.
100%.
I want to ask you about, we've had an incredible honor recently of being able to speak to a number of Latina female leaders, business leaders. And it was interesting when we got connected, because I was like, ooh, finances, it's the same arena that some of the others that we've interviewed are in. And I thought, what is it about finances that is attracting these Latina female business leaders to really focus in on fixing finances, especially in the Latino community? Because this has to be something that must be really important, because there's so many of you that we've had the pleasure of talking to that are focusing on this.
So let me tell you, with the Latinas and then the finances component in here, and I'm going a little bit with the statistics, and this is like from last year, 2021. It shows these statistics that we are only being represented in this financial field, which include management, business administration, and accounting.
Okay.
This is in combination. Altogether, we're only 12.9% in the whole US. That is telling you something, right? Already. And when you even, like, just to think about, like, breaking that number from the 3 fields, I'm like, ooh, that is just becoming less and less of us. And me being a financial coach, at the same time, like, I'm a founder and CEO, like, I do, and I love my job. I do the one-on-one with, anybody who wants to start doing financial coaching, but I do groups as well. In my experience, when I have, like, you can tell I'm a Latina, right? And then when I'm going to different business or conferences or anything that is connected, even those tables where there is going to be a financial topic, you can see and I keep seeing, right, like the majority is a lot of Caucasian, mostly men. And then you will see them like, usually they will be more like seniors. And then you will see them with the suits, right? Like that's the image you have about like somebody who is going to tell you, show you something about finances.
Yeah.
So being in this position, I'm like, oh my God, I need to do something. I want, like, as you can tell, I want to be part of the solution.
Yeah.
I don't want to be part of the problem. Like, I need to find a way. Like, I helped my mom back then. Now how I can help more people. So now this is about like how I can help more Latinas who are already in the field. And I'm talking about like, even the ones who are attorneys, like on those properties transactions, the ones who are agents, the ones who are attorneys, the ones who are tax professionals, like anybody, like there is like a different professionals in the field doing different things, like how all of us can do something together and do something for this number, right? It's not just about this number, but it's like we need to be part of like those tables where the conversations are happening, where you're gonna take decisions about like what is going to happen, because you end up like not being able to speak up and talk about like your communities. I see many communities being represented at the table, but not the Latinos, and then less Latinas, right? So that's what I'm looking into in here, and I can see that with doing what I'm doing, we're going to be able to support even the newer generation, the future generations, the ones who are actually right now in the high schools, the ones that are in college, the ones that are in the universities, the ones that they don't even know, like they need that push of inspiration, like tell me something. Why should I continue? Why is this thing that is going to push me to, be at the graduation? Like, why should I be there? Well, hopefully this is going to be a reason, right? To tell them like, you can do this. And then hopefully for the future, I am aiming to be able to build these scholarships for the Latinas in the finance, even if they're in high school, but they already know that, hey, I want to be an accountant. Then this is going to be for you. So those are the things that hopefully are going to happen. Yeah,
and I have to imagine that people get really excited about that stuff, because I think that the world in general has been hungry for this stuff. The more that people contribute and the more different kinds of people that contribute, we're learning that what gets built out of that is, it seems unimaginable right now because we really haven't had all the voices at the table yet. But can you imagine what that future looks like, where you sit at the table and the representation looks more balanced and it, people who may not have been able to be there before are now sitting there? Can you imagine that? And what do you think about when you imagine that table?
Yes, I imagine that table, and I know it's going to happen. I don't know if it's going to take us like many years. I don't know exactly the time, but I know it's going to happen. Because statistically talking, like I can see in the demographics, I can see in, like what is going on right now. I see that the Hispanic population, they are bringing a lot of money and a lot of revenue as business owners and then as consumers.
Yeah.
So we consume a lot, right? Like we are there, we are being like the attention of many businesses that they are seeing, like, let me see what they like so I can sell, so I can create. I see like many products like partnering with other products just so they can kind of give the twist of maybe adding tahini to something, right? Which is the chili powder. And you're like, what is the thing? So those are the partnerships that are happening because of the Latinos, like how I can sell more, how I can do more. So we are there. And I can tell you very, very being honest and secure about this, that the future is going to be a Latina.
Yeah.
The future is going to be a Latina. And one of the things I can tell you is that actually the person who wrote the foreword for the book is Rick Nájera, and he is a person who he's an actor, he is a producer, he's a director, he's like many things in the Hollywood arena. And when he was writing, I was like, one of the things at the end, you will see like he is very secure as well. Like the future is a Latina. And I love that part. And I'm like, man, I'm going to use that from Rick Nájera.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we're really excited for that. We're going to talk about the book here in a minute, but we want to make sure that we get all that in. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a pause and we're going to do the book in a second part. So we're going to end the first part here. So make sure you come back next week and watch for the second part of our episode as we talk about Latinas and finances and how it came to be and what it provides to people. So be sure to come back and join us on this on the Bridging Chicago podcast.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Bridging Chicago, as produced by the SATC Solutions Center. Nothing contained in this podcast shall constitute financial, investment, legal, and/or professional advice. No professional relationship of any kind is created between you and the podcast host or guest. You are urged to speak with your financial, investment, or legal advisors before making any investment or legal decisions. Furthermore, the opinions expressed in this podcast are not necessarily the opinions of SATC Solutions Center, SATC Law, or any of its employees. This podcast is created by the hosts and guests' individual capacities. All opinions on this podcast are or have been rendered based on specific facts, under certain conditions, and are subject to certain assumptions and may not and should not be used or relied upon for any other purpose, including but not limited to, or use in or in connection with any investment purposes or legal proceeding.